Thank you for joining us today. We are unable to call the meeting to order due to quorum, but we are going to just jump into our presentation until we're able to establish quorum. So I'd like to invite Captain Bill Flood to present for the flock presentation.
All right, thank you everybody for being here, and we'll just go over flock, what it is. We've presented this to finance. We presented it a shortened version at commission. I had 5 minutes. We got a little bit more time for this one, so we'll get a little bit more in depth like I did at the finance committee, which was also on our city YouTube channel. So there's been we've had a lot of media about this. We've had a lot of questions about flock and what it is. And what I thought I'd do is go into the history of how we got here. Hello. And so in fall of 2022, our department started to look at downtown camera replacements. We've had cameras in our downtown area for the last 10 plus years. And they're starting to need service, and they're not able to repair. And we started looking at other options for replacing those cameras. And as we moved into options to replace the cameras, we started coming across companies like Flock that said, you know, there's a lot more technology, there's greater technology, there's solutions to some of the issues that not only our city but other cities are having in the United States. And it kind of morphed into license plate readers, cameras, real-time crime center, and I'll get into what all of that is here. But in the search for our replacement of our downtown cameras is how we stumbled across Flock and really liked what we saw. So we looked at other entities, other companies that provide the same type of technology or similar technology. Eventually in March of 2023 we came to Flock. And March of 2024, after working with them for some time, they offered us a pilot program to try the system in the city of Fargo. And so that pilot program was 21 license plate readers and 5 cameras. 5 cameras replacing our downtown cameras, and the 21 license plate readers placed throughout the city in areas that were identified by our intelligence and analysis unit as high call for service areas, higher crime areas, or areas that might be coming and going between a couple of those different types of areas. And so we picked those areas where we placed license plate readers based on data and intel. We just didn't willy-nilly start placing them all over the city. And so that pilot program was approved by a commission in April of 24. It was placed and installed. Starting June 3rd of 24, it went into July. As you can imagine, they have to go all over the city and place these cameras on different city infrastructure. And that technology, then we tested that technology not only with our analysts and our intel group, but detectives and investigators, sergeants, and then a few officers on each shift. And the reason we kept the test group small is we wanted to be able to measure successes. And if we open it up to all of our officers, it'd be much harder to measure those successes. So we kept the test group small, but we wanted to spread it throughout all the groups within the agency. A little bit of the why as to why we wanted to go with a system like Flock, and it's really a great opportunity for us. A system like this protects first responders by using the technology that's installed. So these license plate readers are able to scan vehicles and license plates as they go by. We're able to automatically get NCIC hits, amber alert hits, silver alert hits, anything that's an NCIC that, well, not anything, but a lot of things that we would be searching for in NCIC, warrants, stolen vehicles, even terrorist watch list hits can be done with this. And what will happen is anybody who's signed up with Flock at our agency will get these hits as vehicles go by. They'll know the location, they'll know where the vehicle has passed by. And then we're able to try to track that vehicle down using other technology. So it provides first responders and community technology to do that. It also gives them the option where we have cameras installed to look at what they're going into, possibly, or even people back at the station to look at where officers might be going to, or see what the officers are going to be seeing shortly when they arrive on scene. And also, as officers are pulling the vehicle over, they would have gotten that hit to know, okay, this is a warrant for this type of offense. This is the type of person I'm going to be dealing with if they have something in NCIC. So it gives that officer a protection in many ways. This system is meant to collect and distribute objective evidence. So evidence of crimes, evidence of things that are going on throughout our city. We're able to capture those and use those in investigations. And so those LPRs that we have across the city, license plate readers are searching for suspect vehicles. That not only goes for license plates, but it'll use what's called vehicle fingerprint technology. So it can search for vehicles by color, by type of vehicle, by distinguishing features of the vehicle, so such as roof racks, stickers, in some cases damage, temporary tags. And so you're able to put those different searches into the system for those different types of vehicles and successfully search for a vehicle even if there isn't a license plate on it. And then the last opportunity is that it allows us to engage with the community. So there is an option as we move further with this for us to partner with some private entities who might have cameras looking into public areas or even in their own private parking lots. That might be advantageous to us, or that might help us collect evidence or be in one of those areas identified by our intel analysis unit as an area that we might want one of these cameras. And so it allows us to engage with private entities also. That obviously requires permission from the entity. We'd want an MOU with that entity in order to have access to their cameras. So huge opportunity here as we looked into it. It makes our response more efficient in 3 ways. Proactively, I talked about it a little bit already, real-time alerts from NCIC and some of those different organizations, amber alerts, silver alerts, and then we're also allowed to make custom hot lists. So if we have individuals that are involved in crime or an individual that has a warrant for their arrest, maybe they're a witness, maybe they're a victim that we're trying to find, and we know what their vehicle looks like or we know what their license plate is, we can make a hot list and Flock will be searching for that vehicle and alert us when it drives by one of those license plate readers. So this helps us investigatively, obviously, as clearance rates of cases increase. Often overall crime decreases, and that's what other areas have seen that have implemented this system. Also, it serves as a deterrent. As many people know, as it becomes public that we have this system implemented, people might think twice before they commit a crime in the city, and because they know those cameras and those license plate readers are available. So how does it work? It detects using a number of devices. The Falcon, which is the license plate reader, Condor, which is a push tilt zoom camera that we have in our downtown area. There's also a technology called Wing Gateway, which allows us to connect to a different public, and it would even be private with permission camera systems, and would allow us to view those cameras through the Flock system as if it was our own. So, for example, we have about 65 traffic cameras throughout the city that we would be able to use the Wing Gateway to bring into the Flock system as we start to develop a real-time crime center, even further than what we have already. So once it detects different things on those devices, it decodes it. And it decodes it by using real-time routing, visual search, multi-geo search, and that vehicle fingerprint search. So real-time routing, it actually will give an estimate, or it will try to predict where someone might be going if you're actually trying to find the vehicle in real time. Visual search is just through cameras or the Condor camera or the Falcon license plate reader as it hits on a vehicle. We'll be able to see visually what that vehicle looks like and maybe who's in it with just a still shot. And then if we have a Condor camera or another camera that might be brought into the system, we're able to look for the path of that vehicle as it passed by a license plate reader. So it allows for visual search. Multi-geo search, so it can tell us where that specific vehicle or where that specific license plate has passed in the last 30 days, because this is a 30-day retention. And then the vehicle fingerprint search is what I was talking about before, where we can look at for specific things on the vehicle, such as roof racks, color, etc. And then it delivers that information to the officers with all kinds of methods, but they're allowed to search, or they're able to search, they're able to look at maps, they're able to pull up and get alerts on a mobile app, so they get real-time alerts, actionable insights. They can look up license plates from their vehicle on their phone, and it gives them situational awareness, not only vehicles they're pulling over, but what they're driving into, as I described earlier. A lot of people have questions about privacy with Flock, and so I want to talk a little bit about what Flock does for protection of privacy. So the footage that's taken with Flock system is owned by the agency in the city. It'll never be sold to private or entities or third parties. by Flock. We have that information that's brought in through our system. It's kept for 30 days, so there's a 30-day data retention, and it automatically hard deletes. It takes human bias out of crime solving by detecting only objective data. So this doesn't look for people, it looks for things, it looks for vehicles, and it looks for types of vehicles. So it's not looking for individuals. And so it takes that bias out of it. All data is stored securely with end-to-end encryption. It's within an Amazon government data storage system that thousands of municipalities are using, even government agencies are using. So it has accountability mechanisms. You have to put in a search reason, a user number, when you search that system for something. So you can't just as an officer go into the system and say, I'm going to look up somebody or look up something without giving a reason and putting your number in there. That gives an audit trail, which are supervision audits, and we'll be auditing. Again, it's not facial recognition software, so it's not collecting any biometric information, any information about a person, what they might look like, how big they, small they are, color they are. It's only looking at vehicles and license plates. It's not used for things like parking enforcement. It's not connected to registration or third-party databases like Carfax or DMV, so it's not used for any of those things. Only placed in public areas where there's no expectation of privacy. And so if Wing Gateway, like I talked about before, is used with a private entity, there's going to be MOUs signed, and in many cases, those private entities will post that, you know, there are cameras in use so that individuals will know it, although that's not mandated. It's their own private property, but we have to have an MOU and permission to be able to use their system or be involved with their system. Our cameras with the city are placed in private or in public areas with no expectation of privacy. So we've had this running now. It's been for 4 months. When we made this presentation, it was originally in August, and I wanted to look at 2.5, 3 months of some of the wins that we've had just in that short period of time. And so as I looked through some of these and I worked with our intel unit to pick some of these, I wanted to pick a wide variety. So this first one, we had a report of a gross sexual imposition or a sexual assault and a kidnapping. And as we went through the investigation, we were able to identify a suspect vehicle or supposed suspect vehicle that this victim was giving us. And we were able to see where the vehicle was and follow that vehicle using different cameras in our downtown area. And we actually were able to confirm that it was a false story from our victim. It actually stopped a suspect from being falsely arrested based on a false story. So that's one twist to how we might be able to use this system. And that one person who might have been arrested based on a victim's statement and some other possible evidence was not, based on what we found using these license plate readers and cameras. We have multiple recovered stolen vehicles, and I'll go back and say that investigation, which might have taken, might have put a person in jail and taken days to try to figure out, took 4 hours using this system. A stolen vehicle, recovered stolen vehicle off of an NCIC alert. Officer was driving, got the NCIC alert, was in the area, confirmed the vehicle was what Flock said it was, made a traffic stop, and made ultimately an arrest for that possession of stolen vehicle. That was a 2-hour investigation. Another stolen vehicle, a person reported their vehicle stolen, called us. We typed the license plate into the system and found the vehicle was not stolen, but it had been towed by a tow truck, had been repossessed. And that happened immediately after the report. Officers arrived on scene, typed in the license plate, and we were able to find a tow truck with the vehicle that was attached to it driving by one of our license plate readers. That person, it might have taken months to find a vehicle. When vehicles are impounded like that, you don't know where they go, and it might have taken months to find that vehicle. Here's one where officers did take a report of a sexual assault, had very limited information about the suspect or the vehicle, just vehicle color and type. They were able to find that suspect vehicle within 6 days and identify that they were from Missouri. That case is still ongoing. Missing person, there was an elderly female with mental health issues and some pretty extreme medical issues that kept walking away. She had access to a vehicle. She'd walk away and then get into a vehicle from the home that she was in, and they couldn't find her. We were able to type her vehicle into the system and within 2 hours find her driving that vehicle and bring her back to safety. And then the last one, we have a lot of complaints about driving. Although we can't use this, the state of North Dakota does not allow, like an automated ticketing or an automated red light type system. For our reckless driving situations where we have individuals that are on motorcycles or even driving quickly, if we can capture some of that on these cameras and license plate readers, we are able to go back and do an investigation and take action accordingly. And that's what happened in this situation. We were investigating one reckless driving incident when we found this reckless driving incident where there was actually an individual who was popping a wheelie on their motorcycle. Our intel detective went to their house, interviewed them, they confessed, and they were given a reckless driving citation. So it can even be used for situations like this. It's also been used recently in many of our shootings that we've had over the summer, homicides, shots fired cases. That 42 documented successes in 3 months were up considerably. I should have adjusted that number, but we're well into the 50s. There's many that we can't talk about because they're active investigations, but it's being used daily. There we have access to 591 cameras within the system. So another major benefit of this system is once we have access to flock, others who have flock can join our system, and we have access to theirs and they have access to ours. So for example, if we have a homicide in the city of Fargo and that suspect is from Houston, Texas, and we know that that suspect is driving to Houston, Texas in a specific vehicle, we can create a hot list, put that suspect's license plate number on that hot list, and if we're shared with Houston, Texas, if they drive into Houston, Texas past one of their license plate readers, we will be alerted that they're by that license plate reader in Houston, Texas, or anywhere in between of others that might have flock technology. So we currently have 591 cameras with other agencies, jurisdictions, municipalities, and I just looked at a list yesterday where there was probably 20 more that we're going to be giving access to, and they'll give access to us. So it's a network that is coming into the state of North Dakota that has been in the United States and different states for many years, and that we're now getting access to. So we continue to receive requests weekly to get access. I thought that I'd bring in an agency that's within the Midwest that implemented this, and they had a 7-month test period, and just see what they dealt with. So they had 85 vehicles identified with criminal activity, 15 stolen vehicles located, 69 suspects identified, 46 arrests, 60 felony charges, 87 misdemeanor charges, and 72 investigative leads developed. We're tracking to be doing that same type of activity just with the 21 cameras that we have implemented. And so that was over a 7-month period. We're within our 4th month, and we'll be updating some of those successes. The system itself will document successes, but you still miss some of them, and you miss some of the reasons why. So you still have to go back and say, okay, why was this a success? And we'll be able to update this presentation as we do that. But this was Altoona, Iowa, which is a suburb of Des Moines. So what is flock? Flock's license plate recognition gathers evidence and facts about vehicles, not people, alerts police of wanted vehicles, used to solve crime, and adheres to all state laws. And I've said this a couple times, I want to make the point, it's not facial recognition, it's not collection of biometric or sensitive information, so it's not collecting what people look like, it's collecting what vehicles look like. Not used for tracking of speed or parking violations, not used for red light violations, and the data automatically deletes in 30 days. There is an exception. We would have to go to commission and get their permission to add, to extend that. It would obviously cost more money, and we're not looking to do something like that. We feel that 30 days is sufficient, obviously. So that's what flock is. Any questions on flock? Because we're going to talk about Real-Time Crime Center here shortly, but anything that anybody has before we move on?
I have a question regarding flock. You mentioned that it's not, it does not do facial recognition. Is that a limitation of its technology, or is it something that we just haven't pursued that type of action?
With flock, it's a limitation of their technology. They are not into facial recognition. They're into vehicles. Now, what they're going to do in the future, I'm not sure. There were other entities that we looked at that did have not only some of these capabilities, not to the same extent as flock, but they also had facial recognition capabilities. Flock hasn't done that yet. They want to stay in the vehicle business for now. Obviously, who knows what they're going to do in the future, but that's where they're at for now.
And one other quick question. You mentioned agency. That's somewhat vague. Who is the agency? And
The Fargo Police, I'm talking about the Fargo Police Department. Yeah, sorry about that. Yes.
What was the response from the officers implementing this new technology?
Well, we've just recently, within the last couple of weeks, opened up the technology to all of the officers at our agency, and they were asking for that as they saw the test officers, detectives, investigators using it with success, and they were having to go to their sergeant to do a hot list or to search for a vehicle that they'd been on a call for service for. They were very quickly seeing its benefit, and they were very quickly asking for the ability to use it on their own cases so they could just pop that number into their cell phone and see where the vehicle had been. And so the officers are in favor of using this technology.
You mentioned that there are other entities that also subscribe to the Flock network. Does Moorhead Police Department?
Moorhead Police Department does not subscribe to Flock network, but I know that they're looking at those technologies.
Okay. How about any sort of like highway patrol within North Dakota or anything like that?
The Highway Patrol does not. There are some other municipalities within the state that are looking at Flock.
Okay. And then as far as like federal government, FBI, I assume, would have access to the database?
The FBI, I'm not sure what they have access to. I would assume they have access to Flock, but I can't answer that for sure.
Okay. What sort of accuracy rates or false positives do you get with the recognition software?
You know, I haven't looked at false positives or accuracy rates. You can actually adjust what it will look for within the system, and sometimes at night you'll make it so it's a little bit more easier, less accurate, just to look at, just to catch that type of vehicle, and then an officer would have to go and confirm if it was a specific vehicle or not. But what we're seeing is very successful. We haven't had anybody go to a vehicle and go, "Whoa, that's not the one that it hit on." I just don't have real numbers.
If it hits, it's what it's looking for.
If it hits, it's what it's looking for, is what we're seeing.
Okay. Is there any, and you know, similar to the facial recognition, is there any interoperability with any quadcopter or drone technology that's available now or in the future?
So Flock does have its own drone capabilities that we could look at in the future, and we more than likely would look at in the future to make our response a little bit more efficient and a little bit more safe for officers. There is interoperability with cameras through that wing gateway. I'm not sure what that looks like with different drone capabilities and responses. That's something I haven't looked at yet.
Okay. Is there a limitation on the camera technology? If a private citizen wanted to have their Ring doorbell tied into the network to help out the police department, is that something you guys are looking to add more sensors, or is it just?
No. Who we would reach out to with Wing Gateway, it would be based on data, would be based on intel. We'd be looking at more than likely businesses that might have cameras in locations that would be advantageous. There is the option with Flock to register your private camera. There's a public access that you can register your private camera's location, and then we could go to you and say, hey, we know you have a camera here, something happened in front of your house. Would you allow us access to your camera? It'd still be up to that private individual to give us access to their camera. Or if we needed to, we could write a search warrant. Thank you. Any other questions on Flock? All right, so I want to talk a little bit about Real-Time Crime Center because there's some confusion between the two. Some people think that we're talking about a Real-Time Crime Center and we're talking about Flock and vice versa. And so I just wanted to get into a little bit of where we're going with Real-Time Crime Center and where other agencies across the country have been going and are going. What a Real-Time Crime Center is a centralized technology hub used by law enforcement and emergency responders. Provides instant information to field officers and detectives. It identifies patterns. It stops emerging crime. Combines data sources to provide comprehensive intelligence, increase investigation success, and proactively mitigate and investigate crime. So what does that mean? We're implementing technologies like Flock to not only use license plate readers but pull in other cameras throughout the city and cameras that we already have with Flock to provide instant information to field officers. So if we have access, let's say, to a traffic camera at 25th Street and 5th Avenue South, just picking a random location, and an officer is called to that intersection and we know there's a fight there. Well, if we have officers that are sitting in a real-time crime center that are actively looking at cameras, they can go right to that camera, they can see who's fighting, they can see what's happening, they can see what type of clothing they're wearing, and they can give that real-time information to officers as they respond. They can even see if somebody's running away and maybe they take a shirt off and now they got a red shirt instead of a black shirt. They can tell officers that are responding which way they ran and what they just did. So it provides that instant information. Usually, real-time crime centers and how we have them set up is a combination of civilian employees, our intel and intel analysts, and licensed law enforcement. And so licensed law enforcement can run the radio. The analysts can start grabbing data, can start grabbing locations where people might be going, and we can give that real-time information out. So that helps us stop that emerging crime, or it helps us identify things even before they happen in some cases. And so it's looking at data and trying to get that to the officers, looking at real-time information and trying to get that to the officers as quickly as they can. And so we'll go a little bit into this. As we were doing the look at Flock and some of these other entities that were providing technology, we started hearing about real-time crime centers, and we said, okay, what are these, and let's go take a look at a few of them. And so we visited 4 sites, one in Orlando, Florida. They have a very large real-time crime center there. And then we looked regionally in Minneapolis, Hennepin County, St. Cloud. And I sent individuals to these real-time crime centers with a series of questions looking for lessons learned on setup so we wouldn't make the same mistakes. Staffing, how they were staffed, workflow, communication, technology, what type of technology they were using, and how they communicated from that real-time crime center out to the officers on the street. We were able to very quickly say, you know what, we have enough technology here to start a small real-time crime center, not a 24/7 real-time crime center, the one that can be used for different events or during different major incidents that might be happening. And we basically, myself and actually Lieutenant Mosier was assigned to our division at the time. We found enough TVs to put together a real-time crime center, a stationary radio. We found a computer with the capabilities that we were able to do that, and we placed this right in the middle of our intel and analysis unit. We spun it up for the first time at our Fargo Police Department community picnic just to see how it would go. It went very well, and we said, okay, let's use this for downtown Fargo Street Fair. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the successes we had from that on our next slide. But it went very well, and we used it for our Pride Parade also. We've used it for the major incidents during normal business hours, because that's when we can staff it with the staff that we have. Staff 50/50 by intel analysts. I went into that a little bit. I want to point one thing out about this picture. The reason we have so many screens and so many TVs in this picture is we have access to different city camera systems, but they're all with different vendors or different, they all have different hardware. And the Wing Gateway would allow us to pull those into Flock, and we wouldn't have as many screens. But because we have all these different systems, we want to be able to view different cameras, and we have all of those different screens to do it. And so the intel analysts and the detectives that are in there have to know how to use each one of those technologies to search each individual camera system. So it's not as efficient as it would be if we could pull it all into Flock, use their technology to search those same camera systems. And so one thing I wanted to point out for this is, as we move into the future, we want to be able to try to bring in Wing Gateways for those different city cameras that we were looking at. And so just something I wanted to point out there. This was operation during the downtown street fair. Lieutenant Mosier was in there the majority of the time, a lot of the time, doing this. So if you have any questions afterwards on how it went, if I don't cover enough, he can definitely answer some, put you on the spot, Travis. But we had 101 incidents monitored in that it was a 3-day period of our downtown street fair in the downtown area. Of those 101 incidents, only 3 were identified by officers on the ground. So we were able to proactively identify incidents that were going to occur or were occurring using the real-time crime center and using the cameras that we had available to us in our downtown area during that downtown street fair. And so we were able to direct officers to those locations, and we were able to inform them of activity that was going on during that incident. Anything from heavily intoxicated people to suspicious people to fights that we were able to either stop or break up or prevent from happening. And even stuff that was coming from the outside towards the downtown area. There was an incident where there was an individual that was going to go to an apartment and try to harm someone right next to where the street fair was, and we were able to intercept that vehicle using license plate readers as it was coming towards the downtown area. There was also a fleeing vehicle that was coming towards the downtown area that we were able to alert people on. And so there were a lot of things that we were able to intercept and stop before they happened, or at least get to them while they're happening and get to them more quickly using the real-time crime center. So I don't know, Travis, you have anything to add on that, or we covered it? Very good. So our future strategy, there's a phase 2 for this, and the phase 2 is we applied for a grant. We'd like to bring in the real-time crime center technology. So we currently have Flock OS, which allows us to do all the things I talked about: search for vehicles, view the cameras, create maps, some of those search engines that I was talking about. Flock OS Elite will allow us to bring in all of the other cameras. It'll allow us to disperse some of this technology a little bit more easily, and it'll allow us to run a more efficient real-time crime center. And then in that second phase grant, we're asking for Wing Gateway for all of our traffic cameras. So, we currently have 21 license plate readers and cameras combined. We'd be able to bring in 65 more cameras that are already spread throughout the city, that we already have access to and are already looking at, to more easily and efficiently look at those cameras in our real-time crime center through Flock technology. And so that's all subject to grant funding. And so we're waiting to hear on that. Future, dedicated staff. We've seen, just using this using the real-time crime center in some of our most recent events, that it's been very successful, and it would be really great to have that same success citywide. And but you need people, you need technology, you need a place to do it that can hold those people, and that requires money, and it requires an allotment for more individuals. And so that's what we in the future want to look at, is where would we put this within this building, and how can we get that implemented 24/7? And so that's where we'll be going in the future. This is a picture of a built real-time crime center that's established in a larger municipality, and this is where we would like to find ourselves as soon as possible, I guess. So Travis was, you were responsible for our current configuration, which is usable, but this is something that we'd like to get to. And so I just want to touch a little bit on a real-time crime center. The real-time crime center uses Flock technology, but it has a whole different purpose and use. So any questions on that? Are we?
Yeah. One other question. Even though the RTC isn't a 24/7 operation, do the Flock still collect data
Yes.
24 hours?
The Flock is collecting data continuously throughout the day, but the only data that we're going to see is the one that the data that we are asking to see. There has to be a reason for us to see it. There has to be a reason for it to hit on it. There has to be a reason for us to look at it. And so it's collecting data 24/7 because we might have a major event tonight, and if it happens in a specific area and we now have a suspect vehicle, when we find out about it the next day, or when we're looking into it the next day, we can create a hot list with the vehicles that were fleeing from that incident or that we felt might have been at that incident, and we can then gather that evidence that was being collected before we even knew a situation was going to happen. So that's how it's being used, and that's why it's constantly collecting that data. Yes, sir.
So, is it necessary to have that here in this building?
Well, I really think it is. And the reason being, it's good to have us all of our resources in one place. And when we have this spread out all over, supervisorily, it's harder to monitor. We start to have, you don't know who's in the other building because they're going to report to that building and not to this building. And when you have a major incident, you don't want the command staff or maybe the incident commander that might be in charge of it leaving one building and going to another to run that incident. You want to be able to walk to the next room, to the next floor, and be able to monitor those cameras and make good real-time decisions about the incident that's occurring. So it's important for it to be in the police department, in my opinion.
In the agencies that you went and saw, the ones that are already established, did you ask them how they funded it, or if it was grant funded, or if it was something that was funded else in a different way?
It was a combination of all the above. Grant funding, city funding. It just really depends upon the city and the situation. It was really kind of interesting. Orlando looked very similar to this. This isn't Orlando, but it looked very similar to the one that we're seeing here. But when you go to Hennepin County, you go to St. Cloud, you go to Minneapolis, theirs looked a little bit like ours, but bigger. It was kind of piecemealed together. And they had put more money into the system that was out there as opposed to the Real-Time Crime Center. And so this is kind of an emerging thing. It's something it's not super new, but it's spreading into all size agencies. And so all of the agencies are at different stages of implementing this type of technology and this type of law enforcement.
Would the Flock OS Elite or the Wing Gateway allow interface with the body worn cam or the dash cams?
Yes, so we already are talking, the two technologies are speaking to each other now just on license plate recognition. But what Flock OS Elite will allow us to do is we'll be able to see geographically where officers are at, not only their vehicles, but their body cameras, and we'd be able to then bring that body camera real-time footage into the Real-Time Crime Center through Flock OS Elite. And so how that might work is you have a bank robbery, you have a suspect vehicle license plate, that license plate hits on a license plate reader, the Real-Time Crime Center looks at the screen and says, I have an officer 2 blocks away. They get on the radio, tell the officer, where they're going and what to look for, and they're able to direct that, and then actually see what they're seeing if they need to as the officer responds. It's really amazing when you see it all put together. Yeah.
Is the officer aware that he's being tracked through this camera?
Yeah, the officers know that if supervision turns their camera on, the officer's alerted to it. And we have that technology right now through Axon. That's not something that's just available through Flock. But again, what Flock OS Elite will allow us to do is bring all that into one place. So we're not having to use all different kinds of technology to search cameras. Anything else?
Security. I know that the body cam information is secured from what Witten showed and all of the types of steps that information is secured. How is the Flock system secured?
Are you talking about like release of records to the public or release of information to the public when it comes to recordings?
Yes.
Same exact thing. So, it would have to be requested. If it was part of an active investigation, it could not be released. Once that investigation is complete, people could see some footage, but there are some limitations tactically on what we might want to show people. There has to be a reason for them to look at it. And so falls within the same standards as the Axon video would fall into. Same exact thing. All right. I should go to my question slide. Now, I know that there was a question over here. I think there's a separate time for them to make a question or statement. I'm not sure from individuals in the audience that might have questions. I don't know what the rule is on that. Okay. Sir, I know you had a question.
Yeah, just curious, do you have an estimate of what the cost is to move up to the Elite system?
It's $33,000 to implement. And then with this system, there's a yearly reoccurring cost. So it's $100,000 to keep what we have going yearly. And if we were to get that second phase, it's $32,300 to keep that going yearly. And so that's something that if when we receive this grant, we would have to go to commission and get approval for that. Not only acceptance of the grant, but the funds for the reoccurring costs with the city commission.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Does that include training on the equipment and all of that, like regular updates and training?
What that fee, and one of the major reasons, I should have talked about this, but one of the main reasons we went with this one over others is that they're constantly updating, constantly fixing, constantly looking at cameras. I found out today that we have one of their technicians in the city looking at some of our cameras and updating some things. And so they just alert us that this guy flew in from Georgia and he's updating cameras. So that reoccurring maintenance fee covers updates on cameras. Once technology, just like Axon, once technology gets better, they're going to come in and take that camera that we've had back and they'll put the newest technology up for us. And they will also update technology within our computer systems like Flock OS Elite. And so they're, from everything we've seen, they're very responsive, and we might be paying a little bit more than some of these other ones, not a lot, but the service they give is really unbelievable, and the update with their technology and equipment has been very, very good. All right, I appreciate everybody. Now, what happened in commission is we were allowed sole source purchase for this, our last commission meeting, and so we are in the process of purchasing the pilot program that we've had established and looking for ways to build this as we go on throughout the years. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we do have quorum now, so we will go ahead and call the October 10th, 2024 meeting of the Police Advisory and Oversight Board to order, and we'll introduce the commission members. Mr. Scott?
Scott Paul.
Lucretia King.
Tanya Graywind?
Connery Thomas?
Joanna Johnson.
Todd Spilberg.
All right, the first item we have is approving the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carried. The next item on the agenda is approving the minutes from the September 12th, 2024 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Not hearing, motion carried. The next item is public comment. Those who wish to address the Police Advisory and Oversight Board must use the sign-in sheet. Speakers must state their name and will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments should not contain profanity or personal attacks. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Oh,
No, we don't.
okay, thank you. The next item that we have on the agenda is the brown bag date discussion and topics. So we wanted to first just confirm the location and the time for the brown bag. So it's on November 7th at Nexus Path Family Healing Building at 1202 West Track Drive in South Fargo. And it's going to be held from 5 until 6:30. We wanted to have some discussion regarding the purpose of the meeting and just kind of talk through what the agenda will be for the meeting. So we have some suggestions, or when we discussed setting up the agenda for this meeting, we thought about talking about, like last year when we did our brown bag, we talked about having each member have an opportunity to provide highlights of the past year and some of the achievements that we've had. And so allowing each member to provide a summary or something to be prepared to kind of talk through and provide that at that meeting. Does that sound?
Sounds good.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Think before you open your mouth, though.
Yeah. Also, I know that there was some discussion about community conversations or allowing community to have suggestions for agenda setting for the next year. So.
Like a town hall or
Not
something like that?
necessarily a dialogue, but more just allowing community members to have an opportunity to suggest topics or to have something to that effect. And
Like, if you didn't do a town hall or something, how would you do that? Would you open it up on social media where people are going to the police website, making suggestions, or, you know?
yeah, I don't know. I think that's the question is, having that opportunity. Or do we set a time aside during that brown bag where we allow community members to come up and have the ability to do that there too?
So if we set it aside during the brown bag and they come up and ask just whatever question they want to ask to get a response?
Well, I would say for
Not this
topics,
one.
for
For
our
topics.
agenda setting.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good to also, I know I've said this before, but we've never even figured out like a mission statement or anything for this board either. There's a lot of little things like that that are still laying out. I'd like to talk about maybe some potential community education or some type of community interactions. I know you guys are doing a lot already with that, but what are you guys doing, and maybe where are some of the areas that are needed in the community? You know, as far as agenda setting, you know, just kind of maybe talking through some of the things too that maybe we're hearing or concerned about, or, you know, think are important for our community that, you know, that we're hearing and stuff like that. I mean, that'd be maybe some of my ideas.
Yeah, I think I would agree. And one of the things I really want to get out of it is getting everybody's opinions on topics for the meetings for the next year, and having that list, because I know we had a list sort of generated before, and so having everybody at the table to be able to provide that feedback and to give that their suggestions for those potential presentations or topics during.
And some of those topics that we had in the past also came from different interactions we had within the community, different types of meetings, right?
Yeah.
You know? You know, so where the community could come and, you know, bring suggestions.
Okay, and then also, I think talking about, you know, overview or discussion for goals for the next year too. So I mean, having those topics, but also what kind of goals we might have, or something to that.
And I know I've said this before, but I was lucky enough to be witness to the command center during the St. Patty's Parade. And it was quite an amazing thing to witness. And I don't know if there would be an opportunity like that in the future where other board members might be available to witness. You know, I know there's only so much that, you know, we can know, you know, strategically, but they did a good job last time when I was there of, like, you know, just letting me be witness to it or whatever, you know, without.
Well, I actually had an opportunity to come in and speak with the chief, and he showed me the RTC center and things like that. So I would think that, you know, that's an opportunity for each of us to just, you know, set aside some time to go up and see exactly that operation.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so as far as the agenda for the brown bag, I think, did we kind of get, I think, what we were hoping to get out of that? Are we in agreement to offer time for the community to come up and provide?
I think it's important that that we do allow participants, the community, to come in and be interactive with this group. Sometimes I feel like maybe that's something which is not emphasized as much, and obviously you don't want persons to just take over a meeting, but you know, to listen and to have some dialogue is important, and maybe that's something that's something to consider.
Yeah, I don't know if, personally, I'm not sure that the brown bag, this brown bag, I also think too, just kind of also getting to hear what other members are hearing in the community and to brainstorm different ideas it's good. I think we do need community input for that, but there isn't really any time for us to sit also and reflect on what we've done and where we're going, right? Because we don't meet outside of these meetings, right?
What if we just expanded the community window, you know, instead of, what do we got, 10 minutes right now total? What if we gave that 20 minutes or something like that and said, in the beginning, hey, we'd love to hear from you. You can talk about, you know, an issue that you've observed, or if you want to bring up something that you know, we're asking for your input on things you would like to see from the Police Oversight Board in the next, you know, in the next 12 months. If you have ideas, that's the time to bring them up, you know.
I agree, but sometimes our agenda is full to allow, it's a 60-minute meeting, so.
Yeah, but that's why we're doing this
Right.
separate meeting
Right
is
thing.
to.
For an
is
hour
to-
and a half.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean, like for the brown bag, like
yeah.
set aside, oh, I see.
I'd say if we do that, though, we have to actually advertise to the public that this is happening, so we don't have, onesie twosies, that people know that it's happening, and it's worth their while to come in and provide input. So social media, Facebook or Twitter or whatever.
That's a good idea.
I agree, I like that. That's, okay.
Like, make the first part of the meeting about that, and then be able to take what we're hearing with us to the remainder.
I would guess that there's going to be a lot of overlap if people do bring ideas of what they think from a community engagement or education standpoint. I think the things that we think are important are probably going to be pretty well overlapped with the things that a person from the community would think.
Also with that, I think some of those suggestions in a brown bag setting would allow us an opportunity to comment. I mean, there's things that we're doing that people not be aware of, and they might say, hey, I'd like to see this. And in that brown bag setting, we could respond and clear that up right now. Here's actually what already is being done, and here's a reference for you. So again, so we don't have to, they're not wasting their time in asking that question or making that recommendation, and we're informing them about what's actually happening, and then take away the things that, the other suggestions that maybe, aren't being done at the moment. But it's a little bit, it's a little more, we have the ability to interact a little more in that setting. So with the chair managing the meeting appropriately, we don't have any, really, I don't have any issues commenting or answering questions that I can answer at a meeting.
Great, thank you. All right. So we can move on to the next item on the agenda, which actually I think we had just the presentation and presentation questions. So unless there's any other business? No?
No police updates.
We did have, I think we were going to have the police updates, but I'm thinking that the chief was not going to be here. So.
Yes, I can give you a couple of updates. On this last Monday, we graduated and swore in 9 new officers, so that's pretty exciting. I don't think anyone, I mean, maybe you saw it online, but we've added not only some really, really good folks to our department, but again, we continue to diversify the department as well. And that's really a tribute to our personnel, our culture, and our recruitment efforts that have done that over the course of the last several years. So we're pretty excited about that. We're recruiting for our January class right now, and we'll have that full. We have 6 vacancies at the moment, and we're hoping to be able to overfill those vacancies due to anticipated retirements in 2025. So we've got now that the budget is complete, we have to negotiate that through with city administration and see if we can do that. And I think that's probably all I have for updates at the moment. Well, I guess I got the camping ordinance implementation too. I think overall it's gone well for our folks in public health. We have made 0 arrests, right? 0 arrests for a violation of the camping ordinance. So I think we're getting good compliance and have cleaned up some significant areas of debris and so forth. And there'll be an update related to that on Monday's commission meeting. There's an agenda item for that, so more to come there, but that's going well without really any issues from the police department perspective.
All right, thank you. Well, hearing none, or hearing no other business, this meeting of the Police Advisory and Oversight Board stands adjourned. Our next board meeting is scheduled for November 14th, 2024, with the location to be determined.